Hello and welcome to this episode of Unboxed. And today I'm going to show you GPTs in Google Sheets, or for that matter, any spreadsheet that you use. I gave an element of this presentation at the recent EN Marketing Forum, and I had a few questions about it afterwards. So I decided to fast track my Unboxed on this particular piece of technology. Unboxed is about showing you technology that is accessible and useful for your journey in digitizing events. Let me show you how it works, and while I'm doing that, explain some of the use cases. So on the Google Sheet that you can see here, I have taken the bios and the speaker names at this particular conference. And from my time at organizing and running events, you do deal with a lot of spreadsheets. You can systemize a lot of things, but you still need to work in spreadsheets. And you also want to augment the information into something that goes into the way of how you want to present the information. Let me just show you what's possible. Because one of the things with GPT is it's really useful, but you're in a conversation back and forth, and sometimes you need to change things at scale. And this is where GPTs and Sheets can become very useful. So what I've done here is speakers, a list of speakers, Simon, me, Jessica, and others, the bios, and an output. The output I want is about 55 words. I want it to be an informal style, and I want it to be basically according to this prompt here. So let me zoom in. That's a little bit better. Much like any Excel or Google Sheet formula, I'm going to go equals GPT, because that's what I want to use. And I want to go to this prompt, and I want to make it absolute because the prompt shouldn't change. And I am going to concatenate it with this information. So I'm not going to explain Google formula or Sheets formulas to you. But what this does is goes out to GPT, does what the prompt's told you, you've told the prompt to do, and brings back the information in that way. The beauty about having GPT in Sheets is you can now do things at scale because it's as simple as dragging down, and it'll then do the same for me in an informal style. Now let's stay here for a second and just show you some of the possibilities. Now, this particular event was about event marketing, so I kind of want to tune my prompt to make sure that what happens is we take information from the speakers that's more tuned to event marketing. So I'm going to change the prompt. I'm just going to paste that in and put that in, and you can see how, actually let me wrap this so you can see. Now the prompt has changed and the output has changed as well. If I'm happy with this, which I'm not at the minute, and I'll show you one more thing, I can then carry on and drag it down to other people. But here's the other thing. So for some of the bios, the name isn't explicitly in the bio. And this is again where this becomes super useful, because all I need to do in here is append by concatenating the name of the speaker. And that should change the output. There you go. So now I'm getting close to what I want in all of these, but I want to play with it a little bit more. So let me try this, and let me wrap it so you can read it as well. And I'm now getting a lot more consistency in what gets pulled back, so that I can use this, for example, in emails where I list the speakers, where I want to be much more focused on the event marketing competency. And there's one more tuning, but you can basically get this pretty close to what you need. And here is where the second tuning comes in. So when we use GPT in Sheets, and it's really easy to do, I'll put some links and you can figure out how to do it. But when we do this GPT in Sheets, there are a couple of models. One is better at doing this more complicated stuff that we're trying to do, and the other one is much better at doing things quickly. So when I change my prompt here, and again, let me zoom in. So when I change my prompt here to GPT-4, I'm now using a more competent model to generate the output. And you will see that GPT-4 does a much better job. This bio here has now used this prompt to create this output using the GPT-4 model. And again, I don't have to go into GPT and paste it all in. I just drag and everything changes. And you can see that the results, I haven't dragged it all the way, are much better. So some of the active use cases for events is that whenever we get a list of information where there's a lot of text and we want to transform that into text that's more relevant, tuned to either the niche we're covering or some of the messaging we want to create, or maybe we're targeting a particular persona and we want to make sure that the speaker bio, anything actually, the session, what have you, is more tuned to resonate with them in personalization. This can be a very quick way of taking original text and changing it to what you need and really quickly getting to that information. So I'm going to build on this a little bit and move on to the next use case, and that just illustrates that point a little bit more. So let me add another prompt, prompt 2. And these are just examples, but you can see where I'm going here, because I am going to put in a prompt that tries to get a welcoming social media post off the back of a speaker bio. Socials. Now I can now choose not only which model I want to use, whether it wants equals GPT or equals GPT-4. For this case, I would use GPT-4, even though GPT does that. So if you go GPT-4, you can now choose whether you want to use the output or the original. Entirely up to you, but we do need to put in the prompt first. So click on that, make it absolute, and then concatenate it with what we want to use. I'm going to use the output just to show you what happens. And as you can see in the instructions, I've put in always include my event hashtag and then choose some other things. So it's done this. As with the earlier one, you can keep tuning it until it becomes right. And we can also say, actually, no, I'm not going to go to the output because that gives it too little information. I'm going to go to the original bio. And we've now got a bunch of, if we drag down, a bunch of sounds very belittling, but we've got a series of tweets. And they're pretty good. I focus on data and digital transformation. Correct. Simon this is more of his wheelhouse, live events. Yeah, 100%. So it's really good. Jessica, much more focused on marketing. Yeah, it works. So that's the second one. Now let me show you the third use case, which is also really useful, I find, in events. So we're going to put in prompt 3. Let me pause. So here's prompt 3. And a lot of times, certainly when I used to run events, you used to get big sheets of information. And for whatever reason, you wanted to categorize that to those categories that are really relevant to your event. So I have taken the 4 categories and that were covered at this EN marketing forum, or was it the EN marketing conference? Anyway, it was a great event put together by Exhibition News, and want to categorize it into management, strategy, data, future trends, and innovation. And what I want to do is I want to use the speaker's bio to only bring back 2 most relevant categories separated by a comma. So I'm being very explicit because that is what I want to have happen. That prompt all set, and now I want a column for the categories. Would help if I would spell. I am going to do the same thing here. Now here, I am just going to use GPT because I know the fast and less API costly model is really good at categorizing stuff. Again, same thing, absolute reference because the prompt never changes. And I'm going to use the full bio and I'm going to hit return. And I think I referenced the wrong thing. Here you go. I've got the two categories for Simon, and let's see what happens with all the rest. So again, I was wondering why that wasn't giving me the earlier result. I made a mistake in the actual formula that I put in. I was still referencing another bio in here, but I've corrected that now. And you can see that the categories are actually pretty good. I've got innovation and data, Simon's got this, and then the other speakers were actually in the management and strategy track at the event. So everything works. In essence, what this does, it allows you to access the power of GPT to do these simple categorization repetitive tasks in a spreadsheet. So you can then systemize. Once you've got these prompts right, they're right. And then you can put them in for, let's say, every event or every outcome you want. There's some other outcomes that I want to share with you where we've been working with the teams that we work with, which is more around very quickly getting much more tuned session information to particular personas because sessions can cover a number of areas. And if you just send the entire um, let's say 200, 300 word session proof, you aren't immediately hitting the persona that you're targeting with that particular email message or social message. So this is a good way to at scale get those more tuned messages. So you can have the speaker bio, and then you can have a message bio for persona one, bio for persona two, bio for persona three. Anyway, the world's your oyster, but the really cool thing about unboxing GPTs in Sheets is because I know, and I don't care what anybody says, we will always have to do some work in Sheets. And this makes it really easy to get the power of GPTs rather than copying, pasting, having a conversation, pasting back. So I hope you enjoyed this and many more unboxed to come because there's a whole bunch of cool tech coming. And what I try and do is interpret what that text does in the context of the digitization of live events and how it can help us work smarter. So thank you for watching.